What is go? What's going on, guys? This is the 5 Yard Pass podcast with me, Suri, and this is Sham bringing you the weekend preview. What is expected to be a very talked about weekend. Um, I think we'll just get to it, man. Not the most exciting games. I mean, this would have been an exciting game in like 2002. These days, Newcastle Spurs. No, I'm being serious.
No,
Newcastle
it's fair
Spurs
enough.
were
Yeah.
forces in the day. Forces outside that top four we used to call, not the big six. The top four. Newcastle and Spurs this weekend on Sunday. I mean, it's expected to be the welcoming of the new oil money. And just to set the picture, the first oil money came in arguably with Chelsea. And they won the first big spenders. I think Blackburn Rovers really were the first kind of super team that was created. But as far as oil money goes, this is so there's Chelsea, there was Man City, oil money. Yeah, so this would be the third big oil money. But those two teams, I mean, Man City in particular, they were a relegated side. People, Man City fans have a short memory. They were a side that came up from Div 2 to the old Div 1 to the Premier League. This
Yeah.
is Newcastle taking them. Newcastle is one of the biggest clubs in England, taking them from 19th, and they're not gonna. I don't think they get relegated this year if they can make changes quickly in January. I mean, this is a big move for Newcastle, man. This elevates them straight away. What do you
They,
think,
they
man?
they picked Newcastle for those goal movies. There's the Mexican fella going to Newcastle because
Yeah,
Newcastle has that bit.
Santiago Muñoz. Yeah,
Yeah, so it always has this potential about it. But very long history of that wing. Anything I think 1957 was the last time they won the FA
yes, yeah,
Cup.
it was, yeah.
In 1929 the league. But a proud history. It's interesting because they're doing two things. One, they're getting rid of Ashley, and I don't think you'll find a single person in Newcastle who's sad that they got rid of Ashley. He really ripped out that club. He pulled out whatever he wanted and left, that sort of carcass left. There are questions over the new owners. They failed at the particular ownership test, and then all of a sudden they've passed the test, but no one's made it clear how they've passed the test. There's obvious links to Mohammed bin Salman. There's a lot of questions that are there, and some Newcastle fans will probably not be happy about it. There's probably a lot that really don't mind as long
I'm
as
going to
it's
pause you there, Sham. I'm going to cut right in. I'm going to cut right in. I barely interrupt you like this. Mike Ashley is so hated that they'd rather have a leader of human rights abuse come in than Mike Ashley. Continue.
Oh, he's incredibly hated. Yeah, incredibly hated. I mean, and that's I guess the point. I made the point differently. They hate him so much. It's that the issues around the ownership is something that they're sort of in some sense closing one eye to because they're just so keen to just move forward as a club, and they know that when you consider that Newcastle has more wealth, the owners of Newcastle have more wealth than all of the other owners of all the other clubs combined in the Premier
Combined,
League.
yeah.
And there is a massive, massive opportunity there for them. They'll know to take it one step at a time. They're not gonna win the Premier League this year. Like you said, their aim is probably to get through to January, get sort of out of relegation, and then they can start dipping into the market. But things like financial fair play are going to be an issue for them that weren't there for City when City started, or at least at the beginning of City and the beginning of Chelsea, there wasn't really FFP issues. So how they work around those things is going to be quite interesting. But massive coup for Newcastle. I'm excited that something good has happened for the fans of the club. Obviously, there's those question marks there, but I'm excited that Newcastle has an opportunity to grow because I do think that it's such an iconic part of England. When you think of guys like Paul Gascoigne, Bobby Charlton, all of these guys, it is a hotbed of football. Alan Shearer, like all these great footballers come from that part of England. And just to see them have this
Yeah.
opportunity to rise is something that's exciting.
Well, I'll just put another name in there just as a very good midfield. I mean, Michael Carrick's from Newcastle as well. He's not a legendary status, but you're getting good footballers out of there. Now we go to Spurs, the opposite end of the spectrum. They're doing well, but they have an owner who loves to keep the money in the pockets, not spend as much. Perhaps in recent years, been known as a very shrewd businessman. I think of the sales of Michael Carrick, Luka Modric, Berbatov, Gareth Bale, all on very close to transfer window. Languishing at eighth after a very, very good start. The manner of the wins were not the best. Now we're clashing these two teams together. Newcastle have that momentum. Not only they have that new manager, new ownership momentum. Let's get into the game, man. That Newcastle really don't have any key players. It's not as if it's a new club. It's not. It's a new team. It's the same fucking team. But does this push them through? Do you think, at least for the next 2 months, let's say?
You will hear the fans really connect with the club again, I think. And I think there will be a shortage of tea towels in Newcastle for a while with all the people tying tea towels on their heads coming to the football games to support Newcastle. But
Yeah,
I think that I think it'll get the fans up, and I think that can help maybe bridge the gap and create that connection. The players are
Mm,
going to be still as good or bad as they were before. Like you said, they're not going to get
yeah.
automatically a lot better,
Mm,
but they will feel like there's the future. I think that even you hear reports about the Newcastle players fighting at training, when you hear reports about them openly challenging the manager, I think there will be a change in the manager shortly. If not before
mm.
this game, then probably after. I think as soon as they figure out who they're going to get in, Bruce is out. I don't think he's going to be around much longer. Um,
Yeah, I guess
and I
that's
think
a combination
that's
of,
going to start putting things together. I think the players will walk a bit taller, a bit more confident in the
yeah,
club.
and all it takes as well, and that's what not all it takes, but it can take a very enigmatic or charismatic figure, thinking of the Mourinho's, the Mancinis, to come
I've heard
in
reports about
and change the
Conte. I
fortune.
think it would be absolutely brilliant if they could get Antonio Conte.
Yeah, you got a disciplinarian like that who can come in, set the record straight. We're going for top
Light a
six. We're going
fire
for
under
top
everyone's
four.
pants. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Specifically into tactics, man. I'm thinking about Spurs. I'm thinking about I don't expect them to lose this game. Whether they win is a different story. It's the same old story, Spurs, man. They have 13 to 15 very good players, but something's not clicking. I think Kane would be at the kind of the poster boy for things not clicking. What's Kane got to do you think? Or what Spurs got to do to get Kane firing?
Yeah, and they'll need him this weekend because Son's just been flying around for the international break, all around
Yeah.
to Middle East, then to Korea, and then back. So he's not going to be 100% Son. So they will need Kane going. And it's strange when they've got this 1-2 punch, Tottenham, that is an incredible 1-2 punch. It'd be hard to think of two players that link as well as them in the Premier League that play at the level that they play at. But
Mm,
around them, there's not very much.
mm,
Tottenham are a team that finds it hard to score goals, despite the fact they've got the guy who scored the most goals and the most assists in the league last year. There are things that are not clicking there. If you look at sort of who scored in the player stats, it's not particularly any good stats apart from Højbjerg, who's one of those sort of quiet heroes, sort of plugs away in the midfield. But
mm.
that's not the type of player that's going to get bums off seats. It's not the type of player that's going to lift and inspire a team. He's a player that provides solidity and structure. And
Yeah.
the thing about Gomez as well, he is quite an attritional manager. He is from the
Hmm.
Mourinho school. He's not the type of manager that's going to blow you away. I remember when they played United, and there was about like 5 or 6 games where every game was a nil or a 1-1 draw, and that's the type of manager that he is. There's a lot of attrition in that, and it's funny because Tottenham are a side that I remember growing up, and they're sort of everybody's second favorite team. They're the team that all the
Mm.
neutrals love to watch. They've gone away from that a bit, and I feel like they almost need to reconnect with their DNA and who they are.
Yeah, and I think I think the problem specifically with specifically with Newcastle, Spurs is very much like a United team at the moment. But unfortunately for United, they have that little bit more quality, and they rely on these moments, and the moments a lot from those two. But if you look at the individual parts, Lucas Moura, Højbjerg, and Ndombele, Reguilon, Hugo Lloris 2 years ago, very very good players. I just think there is not enough cohesiveness. I think sacking Poch was a huge mistake, and it kind of goes back. So coming to this game now, do you think they can win it? And how do you think they could win it? Or how do you think Newcastle are going to win it? Do you think that the momentum of the day will push them through? It is at St James.
Yeah, it's a bit of shades of when United played Leeds in the first game of the season. You just saw a whole bunch of things off the field, sort of crescendoing into this
Mm,
amazing moment on the field, and it feels a bit like that could be the situation for Newcastle. Got this new ownership. Everyone's gonna have a bit of a spring in their step. Um, I would watch the game just to hear the fans. Like it's. I think that
mm,
they're going to be
yeah,
absolutely amazing. They've been waiting for
yeah,
this for a long time. Um, Tottenham, I think, are a bit there for the taking, particularly when they've got a lot more players that have gone an international break
mm,
compared to Newcastle. And I'm not sure the regulations at the moment in the UK, but I think some of them might have to do some form of quarantine, like as in stay at home.
mm,
So that might disadvantage Tottenham for this as well, as well as the trip from London up to the northeast.
mm.
I actually think the most likely result will be a draw. I think that Tottenham will probably try and grind out a result, and I don't think Newcastle have enough quality at the moment just to get over the top. If anyone's going to win, it's Newcastle, but I think the most likely result's going to be a nil or 1-1 type draw.
Yeah. A lot of Newcastle fans, and I have a good buddy of mine who says that you don't get better fans, and Newcastle really suffered through the pandemic. I don't really take that as an excuse, but I do understand where he's coming from in that when you're a poor club, I don't mean in finances. I mean when you play poor football, your fans take you over the edge, which is why it wasn't Liverpool excuse. Liverpool had 20 quality players, world class, 15 world class players, and they did terrible last season. You can't really blame the
Liverpool.
fans on that. No, I'm talking about when fans aren't there. The importance of fans to Newcastle
Oh
as
yeah,
opposed to
yeah,
the
yeah.
importance of fans to Liverpool. Newcastle have 20 very average players and John Joe Shelby. So I think fans to them do a lot more than a top club.
Yeah.
But in that being said, I don't think the fans are going to get them through this week. I think at the end of the day, Newcastle, the Spurs of the North, they'll bottle it when they'll bottle it this week. But I think they'll come good through the season. I think you'll see them get safe, and there will be readjustments next year. Steve Bruce isn't going to manage a billionaire club in the same way Mark Hughes was never going to manage Man City in the long term. So for me, the score I think is going to be 2-0. I think you're going to see Kane get back on the score sheet.
Mm.
He did well. He did well against Andorra. Played well through the midweek. He began with the confidence, and I think 2-0 for me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go with a draw. I think that
Yeah.
I think the two teams will cancel each other out. I think you're saying the difference between the teams is Kane and that quality. I'm not quite sure if he's going to bring it, so I'll err on the side of a draw. But I get what you're saying.
All right. Fucking. I. I think you're getting too. I think you're getting too ahead of yourself with this whole. Like, I think a lot of people are thinking that it's still Newcastle for me, and it's still a good Spurs side. So that's what I'm going for. Anyway,
Yeah, no, no,
on that note,
and look, we don't have to agree on everything. I do feel that Newcastle they lost their first three games of the season.
mm,
Since then, they've had three draws and a loss. So they need to be a team that's hard to beat. And I just
mm.
think the fact that the game it was at White Hart Lane, I'd say Tottenham. I just think the fact that St James has tilted a bit more to a draw.
Okay, can I get let's just dive like for about a few minutes. Let's just talk about the ownership itself. I'm not talking about financial fair play. I think that's out the window. I think every club will get around it. Man City beating the financial fair play fine was a joke. I'm just talking about these kind of
Oh.
owners coming in. Um, don't be sad, Sean. Okay,
No,
Ipswich will
I
get
got
there.
something red in my eye. I don't know what it is. I think I rubbed
That's
my
all
eye
right.
just
That's all
before we started the video. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Ipswich,
But bye bye
sorry,
FIFA fair play.
Newcastle have got very questionable owners. Like, if you were a Newcastle fan, does this almost doesn't matter to you, does it? Now you put yourself in their shoes.
You tend to think that success tends to cover a lot of these issues.
Mm,
You don't tend to mind if Man United was, winning, in the first years under Glazer, the club was saddled with a debt. The fans obviously were quite unhappy. There was less unrest because the club was winning trophies. From 2005
mm,
to that sort of Fergie time, I think it was five Premier Leagues and the Champions League. They won as much in the first 7 years of Glazer as they did the 7 years before Glazer. So no one really questioned it. Obviously, there were protests and the new club was formed, but by and large, people went with it. When the club started going down, then everything comes to the surface. So a lot of it,
mm,
I think, will depend on how successful Newcastle is. If they continue to show
mm.
growth and their aim will be to
To win the
at the
Champions
moment
League.
there's a four big. I don't count Tottenham and Arsenal as big teams anymore. There's four big teams in England, and I think Newcastle
Mm,
will aim to become the fifth big team. So if they go in that direction, if they start pushing for titles, winning trophies, advancing in Europe, I think people will use that Singapore expression, close one eye to the other stuff if the club is
mm.
successful. If the club is
And I
not,
think,
then it will all come up.
and I think from a footballing perspective, I think of Cardiff, I think of Queens Park Rangers, I think of a bit of Villa, maybe. The mistake that Newcastle can't make is going for the Rio Ferdinands in their last years, the Alex, the Coutinho's, the
Mm.
players who they think will put a shine in the short term. Even if they were to go and get Ronaldo, a Ronaldo type, Ronaldo coming back to United is not the same. But if Ronaldo went to like a Man City, a Newcastle, sorry, you get what I'm trying to say, or Sergio Ramos, I think that's a mistake that if Newcastle go down
When
that
you look at
route,
Manchester
it will
City,
set
they
them
bought
back.
like Robinho, Adebayor.
Mm.
Those players didn't really add a lot, but then they bought players of substance like Vince Company,
Company,
Sergio Aguero,
Aguero, David Silva,
David Silva. Yeah, like
yeah.
the type of player that they buy will be important. I'm going to ask you a question. Harry Kane to Spurs. What do you think?
Harry Kane, what?
Harry Kane. Oh, sorry, Harry Kane to Newcastle. What do you think?
Oh no, I don't think he goes. No,
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 you
no,
think
no,
he's
no.
going to
He
go to a
doesn't
team
go.
that's going to challenge straight away?
Yeah, because I think okay, let's talk.
I
Let's
just
just talk
I'll
about it.
just before you answer, I'm just going to say
That's a
this.
fair question actually. Why I
I'll
don't
just say
think.
one thing before you
Sorry.
answer the question. I just think Newcastle might have the audacity to bid 150 million pounds for Harry Kane or 200 million pounds. So that's why I'm
Hmm.
asking the question. And the only club I
Okay,
think might actually do it.
I think Harry Kane. Every player has their price, and I don't mean Daniel Levy accepting the offer. I'm talking about the contract. Like, Messi had a price. He wasn't going to play. He was going to play for half the money, but he wasn't going to play for free. Everyone plays at price.
Hmm.
I just don't think Newcastle. I don't think that Harry Kane feels like Newcastle has the right to have him as a player. Does that make sense?
It's too much of a step down.
No, 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 no. It's not a step down or a step up. No, because Robinho went to Man City, or he got tricked into going to Man City. Very, very openly, he said it. You've heard this, right? He
No,
thought he was going to United. Robinho. Oh no, he said this. He's like, I thought I was going to Manchester United,
I
and I
had
got
no
there and I was
idea.
wondering why everything was light blue. Yeah. Anyway, it's a different story. Um, I don't think Harry Kane feels like Newcastle's not a club worthy of Harry Kane. It's not about success. It's a story of I've worked for the last 5 years. Harry Kane's been one of the best strikers in the world. There's a difference between taking, let's say, 300 grand a week and going to Man City and potentially win the title, and then taking 400 grand and then building a team. I'm not here to build teams anymore. I'm not your guy to build teams. You build a team around me. And Harry Kane's not going to get that from Newcastle. It'll take 3 or 5 years, man, to get the right players, the right click. They're not going to get Son as well. That's for
Shearer
sure.
already had his, because Alan Shearer is the player a lot of people compare Kane to. Alan Shearer had his
Mm.
title and then went to Newcastle. That was a bit different.
Exactly, exactly. And he's going back home, the way, I guess, in Ronaldo and whatnot. So no, he doesn't go. He doesn't go.